So 3 years ago, we purchased this 2024 Acura Integra Type S. As you guys have noticed, over the course of those 3 years, everything has completely changed about it. But there's always been some things that have stuck with me. So for today's video, and before we jump into all the fueling, I know guys, we're gonna get there in this next video, but before we get there, I wanted to touch on everything that where Acura really did come up short and put it into perspective for you guys. So if you do plan on purchasing this vehicle, you know exactly what it is you're getting into. So for today's video, let's just dive right in onto what I like and what I dislike about my 2024 Integra Type S. Now to start guys, we're gonna go with the option of power folding mirrors, which the Integra Type S does not have, and it hasn't been like that since the Acura Integra has been available for sale. Now if you ask me, that is a huge feature that is missing from the car, right? And not solely just because it is nice, but Acura deems these vehicles as luxury vehicles, right? And so when you go into a luxury department, that's usually one of the first features you see for said vehicles, right? Well, I feel that that's an area that Acura, I would have hoped that they would have rectified later on with, you know, future iterations of it. But like I said, I'm on a 2024 model. I have not seen it be available. And I do know that some of these are available, right, to install aftermarket wise. I've seen people do it with Civic folding mirrors. However, if you're in this price bracket, I believe that there's just items and feature sets that should be available from the beginning. Acura kind of didn't do anything with that. So I hope for the next iteration, I know there's a facelift coming, that everything that I do mention in this video are just items that they make fully available, or at least give you the option to purchase it, even if I have to shell out a little more cash, right? Let's continue on. There's a lot of conversations around the seats for the Integra Type S, and rightfully so. However, I'm not mad at the comfort with them. I actually do enjoy them. However, what I am upset about is that it lacks certain features, and we're gonna continue to harp on this luxury factor with Acura. However, it did miss the ball. And Acura missed the ball in so many different areas. And when I say that, let's start with the no power functionality. For anybody that's aware, if you do have an Integra Type S, or I even believe an Integra with the tech package, you'll get a fully powered front seat for the driver. That is not the case on the passenger seat. The passenger seat is fully manual, which in 2024, at a $55,000 price point, or sometimes even above that, I believe it shouldn't be the case. Why are we paying extended prices for something of that nature? So to not have that even available for the passenger seat is beyond me. I've come from, I would say, luxury cars prior to this one. I just come from a Lexus, and my Lexus had everything that I'm about to name here, right? And that Lexus was just shy of almost what I paid for this Integra, and it came with everything. So that's why I say, I know we're gonna harp on it a bunch here. I think it's within reason, right? I paid in total, after taxes and everything, I paid $63,000 for this Integra Type S. And I bought it at the height of COVID and all these, or I would say towards the end of COVID, but at the shift of when interest rates were just ballooning insanely. I think I kind of have a good idea here, and I think I have my hand on the pulse of what it should really do have and what it kind of lacked with that of. Nonetheless, for that price, and then, you know, Lexus has all of these feature sets and more, Acura kind of got to step it up, I think, in that department, right? And while we're talking about the seats, there's also no cooling option with it, guys. So, and while we finish up the seats here, it would have been nice for Acura to include some memory options. This car has none. Sometimes there are individuals that get in my car just to move it, if I go to a car wash, etc. And there is no functionality here where it should be, right? Here's the option for it, but it wasn't included. So I'm not sure exactly what Acura was thinking within that context. However, it would have been nice to have functioning memory seat options, at least 1 and 2 for the driver of a car with this kind of price point. Now, while the interior of the Acura, I believe, is stellar, there was instances where things needed just to be touched up and refined just ever so slightly. And if you guys have seen prior videos, you're gonna know what I'm gonna be pointing to right now, which is one of the biggest eyesores that the Integra Type S had, and that was the piano black center console. Now, I've replaced mine with a company called Wunderladens Designs. As you can see, it makes a world of a difference. However, for this not to be also a standard option or something that you can just purchase outright through the dealer, I felt was a big miss. I think the interior needs more Alcantara to match with the middle of the seats that we have here, right? So it would have been nice to include some of that within the door cards, and you didn't have to go too crazy with it. It could have just been simple pieces here like you see with the window power options and the locks, where that could have just been all wrapped in Alcantara, and maybe just something else on this door card just to make it pop ever so slightly. We are gonna keep on that theme of price points, and I mean, when you look at it, there is just a lot of like cheap material here outside of the leather that you see. So something that I think Acura can certainly improve upon, and I hope that they really do. One other area where I wasn't really content was the fact that this car lacked a heated steering wheel. I do know that that is an option available from the dealer itself, but nonetheless, it would have been nice to be able to have one factory. And that would have been nice because, like I said, if you're gonna tag it luxury, there's just certain things you need to have. And if you don't notice as of yet, I am in the back seat, which brings me to my next order of business for my other complaint and dislike heavily in regards to the Acura. Now, if you notice here, this would be a spot reserved for rear charging ports, but we have none. And I have seen the videos and the breakdowns of how you get those installed. But nonetheless, once again, guys, price point, luxury modeled vehicle, it's Acura, and this is how they proclaim it, but still, no rear charging ports. I'm going to ding that one as another knock on the car itself. I mean, come on, it's 2026, and you're telling me in this model car I don't have rear charging ports for anybody in the back? Big miss there. Now, if you're like me and you solely park your Integra within the garage, or not just your Integra, but any other car you possess, right? Anything that you cherish, you would like to have a very easy functionality to enter and exit your said garage. Now, when I've had previous cars, Lexus had their own style built in and integrated into the mirror here in the center. I've had that basically with every other car I've ever owned. Ironically, the Civic Type R, the FK8 that I owned, and now the DE5 Integra Type S, none of them come with any HomeLink availability. Now, this is something I have seen too that can be upgraded, but my question is, why do I have to spend so much money to integrate these products when they should have just come from the factory to begin with? And normally your HomeLink would be right here on the bottom. So I'm not sure what's going on within that portion of the department, but us as the consumer, we're spending a lot of money. This car is not cheap at all. So if you're gonna be spending this amount of money, these are all things I would think that just come straight out of the factory. Once again, Acura, you have some work to do when it comes to bringing off the feature sets here that you deem as a luxury vehicle. And while we're here, I'll touch on this charging port. Now, I love the fact that there is wireless charging available on the Integra Type S. What I don't love is its positioning. And when I say positioning, when I put my phone down in here, as I do right now, you can see how far it is away from me. So if I'm driving and I'm looking at the road, there is no way I can see any kind of notification that comes up within my phone. And as somebody who is a computer engineer, a lot of my livelihood revolves around this one device here in particular. So I wish that the charging port was somewhere more aligned. I would say in the center portion of the car, or honestly, I think Tesla does a great job of it. And look at me quoting something from Tesla, where they have it available here, where it's higher up. I just wish that I had more access to it within an easier section of the car. So that way, if an alert did come in or an email or something, I can at a glance just look at it, and it doesn't really take my physical focus off of the road. Now, one other area too I will mention that I would have loved to have seen was some sort of Acura Integra Type S badging that they do in the Civic Type R, but obviously in our form factor. Would have been nice to have it here on the center of the dashboard, or somewhere integrated here within the center console, right? We didn't need Integra Type S. It would have been nice to have that badging built into and kind of etched into this, but they didn't really do anything in that department, which let's face it, it does look kind of cool, right? When you see that on a Civic and you get to see its production number. I know others have done it, but it just looks kind of distasteful and out of place when you just place a sticker here with a plate on it. So I hope that they do kind of rectify that one as well within the Integra Type S for their future generation of cars. And while we're here and we're looking at this dashboard, there are instances where I have connected my phone and the Apple CarPlay does not work. Why that is, I'm not sure. I have noticed that when I turn my car on, after I've left my phone connected, it doesn't always like to play nice with it. So to avoid it, I've just had it disconnected. But there's still instances where I get no signal, nothing kind of turns on, nothing happens here. And my Apple CarPlay set up to work both wirelessly and wired. So not really too sure what's going on. One of the other areas here that I I'm not too fond of is this gauge cluster. Now, I get that they were trying to pay homage to, you know, the older Integra Type R. If you've seen the Civic Type R's dash, whenever you go up into your sport mode, everything changes. What you do end up getting is something very similar to a Honda S2000, but just obviously more refined for, you know, a 2026 model. You don't get that in the Integra Type S. And if you want to know what I mean, I'm in Sport Plus mode, and this is as nice as it gets. And I think that that's a pretty big loss here. I do hope that Acura at one point changes that, so that way we could get something a little more custom and something that just doesn't look as super basic as what you would see in like an EX model or your regular Integras. One of my last gripes here too as well is the sound deadening within this car. I have seen people pull apart the entire interior just to add sound deadening so that way it becomes a bit more quiet. I understand that the car was meant to be a sports car and they wanted to kind of keep it centric to that. It is way too noisy in the cabin when you're driving. So I've taken calls on the highway and I have to put the volume all the way up just so that I can hear the individual I'm speaking to. That also should be cleared up with the next iteration of this car. I shouldn't have to do that. I think there needs to be a clear-cut decision here. Is this going to be luxury or if it's going to be sport? And if it's going to be sport, stay on that side. If it's going to be luxury and you still want those sport aspects of it, like we have here with the 6-speed transmission and all of the other items that we have, then do that as well. But you can still clean up everything that I've alluded to in this video thus far. Lastly, here is the ELS Studio sound system. While it is better than what you get in a Civic Type R, it's not the greatest. And so I say that because it could sound so much better. And when we keep talking about this luxury category and what should be included in a car like this, it should have a better sound system. Lexus is renowned for their Mark Levinson. If you step into the Jeep with an Overland or anything above that, you get the Macintosh sound system, which is phenomenal. And I love them both. Two phenomenal sound systems. Acura lacks in that department. And I hope that they either partner with somebody else or they just, you know, throw a couple more dollars at this and say, let's give them a true sound system that where the bass doesn't sound too finicky and, you know, the highs are just kind of meh at best. Take that one with what you like. Let me know how you feel about the sound system. This one's more if we're really gonna nitpick, guys, but it would have been nice if Acura would have made the brake caliper in its entirety one solid color as opposed to it just being red and then gray on the corners, which is a bracket that you need to install to hold the brake pads. So hopefully future iterations, I would hope that they, you know, clear that one up as well, but that's if I'm really, really nitpicking here, guys. So that about covers it, guys, for everything that I'm not a big fan of with the Integra Type S. Like I've said, I've owned this car now for going on 3 years. I daily drive it. I'm always in it. I'm in traffic. I've taken it on long distance road trips. I obviously drive it long distance to meets that aren't within the Chicagoland area. So I think I have a pretty good familiarity now with what I like versus what I don't like. You guys let me know down in the comments. Is anything that I mentioned that I don't like? Am I just being OCD about it and it's not that big of a deal? Or were those all items that you guys would have wished would have come factory out of the gate and something we didn't have to pay for? You let me know. Let's touch on some items that I think that we should have gotten. I wish I would have went with the Type S illuminated door sills. I think they look fantastic. It's an area that I wish I would have purchased it. And I mean, I still have time, but I would have gotten it out of the gate. Now I know. One area that I recommend for everybody is the Type S floor mats. These are kind of like WeatherTechs, right? I just like the fact that they are stamped with the Type S embroidery in it. That's something that I like a lot. I think it's always cool. So I would highly suggest you guys get these. It makes cleaning up a lot easier and you don't make as much of a mess. One other item here that I will suggest, guys, is this little tray, right? Originally, it doesn't come from the factory. You have to buy this separately, but it is available on Amazon. And it's simply just this tray where I can store items. So I store my business cards and other little nuances that I have here. So if that's something you guys are interested, I think I paid like 10 or 15 bucks for it. And then lastly, here's the carbon fiber overlay. I know I've touched on this in prior videos, but I just feel it makes the car pop so much more. This is an aftermarket option just to cover up that gray that's behind it. But it does give the car, I think, a warmer feel. And I think it matches pretty awesome with the Alcantara center console there that we went with from Overland Designs. And guys, as you already know, one of my favorite things here is the motor and the entire setup that you can do with it, right? We've done almost everything we can. these last of these mods are coming, but there's nothing more phenomenal than the feel of this car. And I say that with the utmost of confidence because it is 100% true. The Integra Type S has one of the best 6-speed manual transmissions that I have ever felt. I absolutely love it. It is responsive. It has given me no issues. And it just feels so good when you go into the gears. And that goes for my FK8 that I owned and now the Integra Type R. They got it so right with the 6-speed manual transmission. They got it right with the K20C1. They got it right in a lot of areas, and then in others, it just didn't work out so great. And that's okay, right? That is why you refine it as it goes on with further generations. There's always just those caveats where I don't think I should have had to sacrifice options that should have come from the factory, and they did not. I know there was a lot more dislikes than there were likes, but if we really gotten into it, between the styling of the Integra, I think it's better than the FL5. I think the interior is better than the FL5, outside of the gauge cluster and, you know, the little other knickknacks I pointed at. But the overall body styling, it just doesn't compare, guys. And I know you'll say, well, Ryan, you have so much done to it. And I know I do. But if you take this out or you go to my Instagram and you just see how the car looked from the very beginning, it still looks better than its Honda predecessors. And that's just me. But maybe I'm a little biased. I don't think so because I had an FK8. So I like to think that I've played on both sides of the fences, and this is the first Integra that I ever own, actually. Everything before that has been a Honda Civic. You tell me. I think that the good outweighs the bad here for the Integra Type S, but that doesn't mean that it still doesn't have its flaws. So you guys let me know down in the comments, right? Type away, let me know how you feel. Am I wrong? Do you think I'm crazy for thinking that this looks better than an FL5 and the FK8? Am I wrong for saying that this one is not only feels better, it's vastly more comfortable from the suspension setup, and that's why a lot of guys from the FL5 go and get our modules to swap it into theirs? You let me know. There's so much good about it, but I wanted to harp on what I felt should have come within that price point, right? So you guys know all the bad, all the good between how it's styled, its headlights to how it sits, its stance, all the body lines, how aggressive it looks when it's just sitting down. Obviously, it's still a hatch, right? So you maintain all that vastly good trunk space. The rear is vastly more comfortable. The front seats are more comfortable. And I get it, some of you guys want the buckets and all of that. I don't. I'm 37 years old. I can only sustain that for so long before I get uncomfortable. You tell me, is the Integra Type S worth its almost $60,000 price point, or does Acura still have way much more work to do ahead of them? So you guys let me know. I'm gonna leave the video right there. I'm gonna end it just like that. As always, guys, cógelo con take it easy, because I am out.